Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Jai Shri Ram. Welcome to our next episode in our complete reading of Srimad Valmiki Ramayana. And in this episode, we'll be seeing as to what Bharatha and Kausalya are going to talk. In the previous episode, we saw how Bharatha insulted Kaikeyi and went to Kausalya's place. Here, we are going to see the conversation between Kausalya and Bharata. So he was hugging her, and now he's standing. So she's saying, Bharatam Pratyuvachedam Kausalya Bhrujadukita Idante Rajakamasya Rajyam Praptamakantakam Sampraptam Batakaikeya Sighram Krurena Karmana. She's saying, the desire that you need to get the kingdom without any enemies, that is done to you. So your desire is fulfilled. So Kaikeyi did this Krura Karya, bad activity, but then it has helped you quickly. So that Kaikeyi, she made my son go to forests by wearing those Narachiras. That also is for this Prayojana only. O Bharata, please do me a favor. Please also send me to the same place where my son is, because my husband is also not there here. Or if you are not going to send me, I myself will go along with Sumitra. We both will take the Agnihotra along with us, and we will go to the place where Sri Ramachandra is there. If you are fine with it, please take me there and leave me there. Idam hit vistirnam dhanadhanya samachitam Hastyaswarasampurnam Rajyam Niryajitam Taya. This kingdom, which is filled with elephants, which is filled with chariots, which is filled with money, that is given to you by your mother. The moment Kausalyama uttered these words, Bharata felt like as if he was hit by a huge boulder, or someone who has taken a sharp needle and pierced into a sore that has come out of the body, and he felt so bad. And then he fell on her feet, cried for a lot of time, and after that he came back to his senses, and then he said, Arye kasmada janastam garhase mama kilbisham vipulam cha mama pritim sthiram janasi raghave. Oh respectable lady, why are you insulting me when I have not committed any crime? Don't you know the love and affection I have for Sri Ramachandra? Bharata is going to enumerate a lot of sins, and he says that these are maha papas, and if I had any hand in sending Sri Ramachandra to forests, I will be a person who is affected by all these maha papas. I'm planning to go one by one here, so this is going to be a slightly long video. Kindly bear with me. Kruta shastranuga buddhir mabhutasya kadachina satyasandastam shreshto yasyaryo numate gataha. If I had any thought, even in my heart of hearts or in my mind, that Sri Ramachandra should go to forests, my mind should become bad, and I should become a person who does not follow the scriptures. So that's considered a Mahapapa. And then he's saying, if I have ever had any hand in sending Sri Ramachandra to forests, let me get the sin of serving sinful people. Let me get the sin of doing malamutra visarjana. It means leaving stool or passing urine in front of sun. If I had any hand in sending Sri Ramachandra to forests, may I get the sin of kicking a sleeping cow. Karayitva mahatkarma bharta prityamanardakam adharmo yosya sosyasu yasyaryo namate gataha. If I had any hand in sending my brother to the forests, I would get the sin of that man who made his servant serve him a lot but did not pay him properly. And then he's saying, I also would get the sin of backstabbing a king who is ruling his kingdom and who is ruling his people as if they were that king's own children. And if I had any hand in sending brother to the forest, O Mata, I would get the sin of a king who takes 1/6 of the produce of the farmers but does not protect them. I would also get the sin of a person who promises the munis, the Ritviks, a lot of dakshina for completing a yajna, and then after the completion says, no, I did not make that promise. And if I had any hand in sending Sri Ramachandra to forests, I would get the sin of a person who goes to a war with elephants, horses, chariots, and Kalbala, but after going there, he does not follow the rule of the Veeras, follow the dharma of the Shuras, and who runs away from the battle. the Mahabhava that person gets, I will also get the same. And then I would also get the sin of a person who learns all the good things from an acharya, from a teacher, but then does not follow that in his life. If I ever made any decision of sending my brother to forest, or if I had any hand in that, O Kausalya, may I be the unluckiest person in the world who does not see Sri Ramachandra sitting on the throne. If I had any hand, O mother, in sending Sri Ramachandra to forests, I would also get the sin of eating payasanna, krisara, all sorts of good things without offering that food to Pitru Devatas, Atithis, or pujas. Many people, they offer the food to the god and then they eat. So he's saying the sin that a person would get by eating a food that is not offered to God, may I get that punishment. So that's again a Mahapapa that he's saying. If I had any hand, let me get the sin of kicking the cows with my leg, insulting elders, backstabbing friends, and I'll also get the sins of leaking the secrets of a person and telling bad things about my friends in front of others. And then he's saying, even if in my dreams I wanted my brother to go to forest, O Kausalyama, I am telling you, I would get the papa of a person who does not help anybody else in his life, a person who does not have kritagnyata at all, a person who has committed atmahatya, a person who does not have shame, a person who is hated by everyone in the society. So all the sins that have been told till now, all of them are equivalent to atmahatya, right? So he's saying, I would get the result of all those sins. If I had a hand in sending my brother to forest, O Kausalyama, I would get the sin of a grihasti, means a man who is married but he doesn't feed his wife and children properly, but he himself eats a lot of tasty food. If you look at elders, right, they never eat without sharing. Even when they eat a sweet or something, they somehow give it to somebody else and then eat. For a lot of time, even I did not know that that's one of the Mahapapas. If somebody is eating without sharing, so here Bharata is telling the sin that a person would get by eating without sharing food, that sin I would get if I am having any hand in sending Sri Ramachandra to forests. And he says, I would get the sin of a person who does not marry a good girl, who does not have children, who does not do any good things for the sake of society. I would get the papa of all those sins, is what he's saying. And then he's saying, someone gets married, he does not get children from his wife intentionally, that person is a Mahapapi. I would get that papa if I ever wanted my brother to go to forests. And then he's giving new papas here. He's saying the person who does not serve the king, the person who insults women and children, the person who kills women, who kills children, the person who kills old people, the person who does not take care of any of these people, the person who does not pay taxes to the king, the person who does not feed women, the person who does not feed children, the person who does not feed the older people in the family, those people are Mahapapis. I would become a Mahapapi like them. Again, the same thing he says, had I had a hand in sending my brother to forest. And then he's saying, if I ever had a hand in sending my brother to forests, I would get the sin that a Vyapari gets by selling the following. One is lead. Second is Madhu. Madhu here actually means Sura or Surapana, or drinks. A person who sells meat, a person who sells ore, the person who sells poison. These are considered to be extremely wrong things to be sold, and any person who does this, he is considered a Mahapapi. So I would get that Mahapapa is what Bharata is saying here. And then he also says, when a huge war is happening, nobody should leave the war and run away. That he would again be a Mahapapi. I would become that Mahapapi had I wanted my brother to go to forest. And then he's saying, I would get the papam of a person who carries an earthen pot, wears clothes which are having a lot of holes. That's considered to be one of the worst forms of daridra that a person has. So Bharata is saying, if I ever had a hand in sending my brother to forests, I would be that beggar on the streets. May I become that beggar on the streets who wears clothes which are totally, made into peels. Every shloka he says this, if I had a hand in sending my brother to forest. So he's saying that again in this shloka as well, and he's saying, I would get the sins of a person who is totally taken over by kama, the desire, krodha, the anger, and who drinks, alcohol every day, who is into women every day, who is into playing the juda or the Jyota Krida, the cards or whatever people play in the casinos and all. May I get all the sins of a person who does that. And then he's saying, if I had a hand in sending my brother to the forest, may my mind be taken over by adharma, may dharmic thoughts not come to me at all. He's again saying, may I lose all my wealth, may I get the sin of those people who loot others' wealth. The next one is very important. He's saying, if at all I had a hand in sending my brother to forest, O Kausalya ma, ubhe sandhye seyanasya yat papam parikalpate, taccha papam bhavetasya yasyar yonumate gataha. I would get the sins of a person who sleeps in the sandhya kala of morning and the evening. And then he says, I would get the papa of a person who burns others' houses, who sleeps with his guru's wife, who backstabs his friends. And then he's saying, I would also get the papam of not doing Deva Puja, not doing Pitru Puja on a daily basis. And a person who incurs the papam of not serving his mother and father, may I get that papam if I ever had a hand in sending my brother to the forest. And may I lose all my kirti, all my reputation, may I lose everything good that I have had I ever had a hand in sending my brother to the forest. And anyone who leaves his mother is a mahapapi, who doesn't serve his mother is a mahapapi. So if I ever even thought of sending my brother to forest, may I get that sins of that mahapapi. Again, this is a very interesting papam that he is going to say. Rutusnatam satim bharyam rutukalanurodhinim ativarteta dushtatma yasyaryo numate gataha. If I ever had a hand in sending my brother to the forest, O Kausalyama, a lady who has finished her periods and after that she has a desire to get some happiness from her husband. If he is rejecting that, if he is not meeting her that day, well, that's a mahapapa. May I get that mahapapa. Again, he's saying, if I ever had a hand in sending my brother to forest, may I get the sins of a person who has touched a paradara, a lady who is not his wife. And may I get the sins of a person who leaves his wife and has sexual relationship with somebody else's wife. So that's another huge sin according to Hindu Dharma. All these things that are being told till now, they're all big sins. And you look at Mahatmas, they would always save themselves from all these sins. Vipralupta prajatasya dushkrutam brahmanasyet tadeva pratipadyeta yasyaryo numate gataha. A Brahmin who does not have children, who does not even adopt children, he is considered a mahapapi. May I get that mahapapa if I have a hand in sending Sri Ramachandra to forest. There is another interpretation here. Normally they say, only when you do mahapapa, you might not have children. And if you're a Brahmin and if you're not having children, that's considered even more sinful. So whatever sin he has done to get to a place where he doesn't have any kids anymore, may I get the result of such a big sin is what Bharatha is saying here. May I get the sins of a man who adulterated drinking water, who gave poison to somebody else. May I get all those sins. When a cow gives birth to a calf, and the milk that comes out then is very thick. So they don't give that milk to the calf and they use it, I think they call it as colostrum milk in English. That's a very yellowish pre-milk that's produced from the mammary glands of the cows. I used to have it almost till 2009. Once I got to know about this, I gave up eating that. But whenever I used to have it, it sounded very tasty. Many people eat it. But that's one of the mahapapas told by Bharata. A person who eats that, he is a mahapapi because the milk actually came out for the calf. So if the calf drinks that milk, it's fine. If it doesn't drink that milk, it's okay. But it is none of our business to take that milk and make sweets out of it and eat. So Bharata says, if I ever had a hand in sending my brother to forest, may I get the sin of a person who ate it. And he's again saying, if I ever had a hand in sending my brother to forest, I would get the sins of a person who did not give water to a person who is very, very thirsty. He's also saying, if I had any hand in sending my brother to forest, imagine there are two groups of people who are fighting with each other. I have the ability to make those two groups separate, but I did not try to establish peace between those two parties, then I would become a Mahapapi. May I get that sin. So this is a very important reason why you see a lot of elders, when two people are fighting, they quickly try to resolve the fight. They, in the worst case, they send both of them into two different rooms. You would have seen this behavior with a lot of elders. That's because they know about this Mahapapa, that if you are not stopping two people from fighting, that's considered a Mahapapa as per Sanatana Dharma. And he says all these and he falls down on the ground. Again, he loses his consciousness. So a lot of you who have heard this, who come from Sanatan families, you would have seen some or the other of these being practiced. For example, people don't let you sleep during the evening Sandhya time or in the morning Sandhya time. They admonish people when they don't give water to others. And it's natural for most of us, right? In our households, when someone comes, nobody asks for it, but then they come and bring water. We would see a lot of these sins not being committed in our households, but then that number is reducing these days. I really appeal to everyone to follow as many of these as possible, to save yourself from committing these sins and follow the ancient wisdom as much as possible. That's my humble appeal here. And Kausalya quickly comes to Bharatha. She herself is very weak, and she says, "Oh Bharatha, you have been doing a lot of promises. Please don't make me feel sad further. I know your love for Sri Ramachandra, and by God's grace, you did not digress from the path of Dharma. You are such a great person." She hugged him, she made him sit in her lap, and she started crying. Bharata was also crying, and Bharata's mind and heart, it was as if they were getting trampled in this emotional upheaval that he's having. That entire night he spent in sorrow. The next morning, Vasishtha Maharshi came to him, and what did Vasishtha Maharshi speak with Bharata? That is something that we will be seeing in our next episode. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaah, sarve bhadrani pasyamtu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om sarvam Sri Sai Swam Charanarvindar Swasti.